Russian aviation and drone strikes on AFU facilities in Odessa region continued unabated during the week. In Odessa, sounds of explosions and secondary detonation were heard as a result of strikes on port infrastructure. After a long period of time, the Russian armed forces launched a combined strike on the capital of Ukraine and AFU facilities in the Kyiv region. In Brovary, explosions were heard in an industrial zone near the railroad station of the same name and a concrete product plant. Russian troops have launched a massive combined strike on energy facilities in various Ukrainian regions. Serious power problems were observed in the city of Rivne and Rivne region, in Zhytomyr region and neighboring Cherkasy region, as well as in Shostka, where the CHPP is located. Over the past week, Ukrainian units carried out several drone strikes on rear Russian regions. The strikes targeted Crimea, Bryansk, Voronezh, Kaluga, Tver, Penza, and Krasnodar regions. No significant damage. A remotely detonated explosive device was placed under the bottom of a car in Sevastopol. A captain of the 1st rank, chief of the 41st Missile Boat Brigade of the Black Sea Fleet, was killed on the spot. In the Sudzhansky district, Russian soldiers gained a foothold in Darino. On the opposite flank, they control about 80% of Plyokovo. In the Koronevsky district east of Kremyanoe, several enemy incursions were repelled, and an armored group of the Russian armed forces attempted to attack in the direction of Novaya Sorochina. Russian armed forces reconnaissance teams crossed the border in Chernihiv region and planted Russian flags in 2 Ukrainian border villages. After accomplishing the combat task, the squad returned to the territory of the Russian Federation without losses. On the Slobozhanska direction, position battles continue in Vovchansk, Liptsy, Staritsia, and Tukhay. There were no significant changes in the front line. The enemy continued launching strikes on the Belgorod region and the regional center, as well as the oil depot in Stary Oskol, which had been repeatedly raided earlier. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russian armed forces broke through to the northeastern outskirts of Kupiansk, simultaneously striking AFU positions in the industrial zone. After liberating Kolesnikivka to the south, the Russian armed forces are trying to break through to Hlushkivka. There is also fighting west of Berestov. In the Lyman direction, Russian troops had completely liberated Vishnev by the end of the week, advancing in the direction of Zelenyi High and Kopanki. Russian Air Force aviation is regularly launching strikes on identified locations where enemy manpower and equipment are concentrated in Terny and Yampolivka. In the Siversk direction, the parties are silent, rarely publishing current videos. In the course of analyzing online information, attacks by Russian armed forces in the direction of Verkhnokamiansky, which remains under enemy control, were confirmed. In the Artemivsk direction, the Russian armed forces broke through the AFU defenses in the Oktyabrski district, reaching the Oktyabrski Pond near sections number 3 and 5 of the Kasiv Yar refractory plant. South of Klishchivka, the advance of the Russian armed forces to the bank of the dried-up Siversky Donets, Donbass Canal, the crossing of which was blown up by the AFU, was confirmed. On the Oleksandrovsk-Kalinove direction, fighting continued unabated in the center of Dzerzhinsk and the city's outskirts. As a result of clarifying the situation on the front, it was confirmed that the Novaya mine spoil came under the control of the Russian armed forces. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian fighters attacked in the direction of Yuriivka, relying on the recently taken positions in Novo-Oleksivka. To the north, several AFU attacks were repelled on the approaches to Novorodivka. One of the Bradley BMPs was hit by a mine barrier. In the Kurakov direction, the Russian armed forces are conducting an offensive in several areas at once, rapidly breaking through the enemy's defenses. On the northern flank, a large part of Novoselidivka has been liberated, where the Russian flag has been planted. the Russian armed forces are also gaining ground in Voznesenka to the west. In the vicinity of Kurakhove, advanced units of the Russian army are advancing along the Kurakhove Reservoir. 𝐒𝐤𝐫𝐚 was liberated on the opposite bank from the city, and Russian fighters are attacking in the direction of Berestki. On the outskirts of Kurakhove, the Russian armed forces took control of a major enemy field strongpoint between the city and 𝐑𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐚, and also gained a foothold in the center of the latter. In addition, the zone of control in the fields west of Pobjeda and south of Maximilianivka was significantly expanded. On the southern flank, soldiers liberated Antonivka, with fighting taking place in the area of a cattle farm north of the village. Russian troops also liberated Maksimivka, clearing the pocket between Novukrainka and Bohoyavlenka and advancing towards Suki Yali. In Makarivka, fighting continues on the northern outskirts, where the enemy is actively counterattacking from the direction of Storojeve. To the west, Russian troops knocked the AFU out of Rivnopil and are fighting in the center of Novodarivka. In the Zaporizhia direction, Russian troops are advancing in a northern direction from Robotyne. Ukrainian units have accumulated a significant amount of equipment and personnel on the approaches to Orikhiv and Hulyai-Pole. On the Kherson direction, shootings continue in the island zone of the Dnipro Delta. Due to constant Ukrainian UAV raids on the Russian left bank, additional EW equipment was transferred to municipal institutions in the Kherson region.